What is the difference between wet sanding and dry sanding, and what type of sandpaper should I use to sand my boat? Let's get into it. The reason why I started dry sanding boats and I stopped wet sanding boats is I actually had someone educate me on the difference that knows a lot more about sanding than I do. So I called up my buddy at Kilker Boat Works in Orange Beach, Alabama, and I was having an issue with some wet sanding on a boat that I couldn't get the texture out fully. So Timothy explained to me that when you use too much water when you're wet sanding like I was doing, it was actually causing my sanding disc to actually hydroplane across the surface. So my sandpaper wasn't actually cutting efficiently. He said, hey man, really try dry sanding because it's really going to cut out that layer of hydroplaning due to the water. I instantly noticed a huge difference in one, the longevity of the pads. They seem to cut way more for way longer. And I just wasn't having that problem where my pads seemingly just did not work. So from that moment on, I pretty much only do dry sanding. The only problem with dry sanding is that it's very, very aggressive. So if you are new to boat detailing or you're new to sanding your boat, I personally would still tell you to stick with wet sanding. If you're wet sanding, use very minimal water. It'll almost feel like the pad is starting to stick to the surface, but that's a good thing. We actually do want this pad to stick to the surface. When it cakes up and you get a lot of runoff, do a light rinse off, wipe it off, and then add a little bit more water to keep that abrasion onto the surface. But if you are a professional like me and my crew and a lot of detailers out there that watch our content, if you switch to dry sanding, you are going to notice that you're going to be way more efficient in your sanding, but you will be a tad bit more aggressive. So you are going to remove a lot more gel coat and a lot more material from the surface. And when it comes to buffing, typically those sanding scratches are pretty difficult to get out. So you may want to dry sand with 1000 and 2000 to really make sure that you can pull out those with your heavy cut compound. If you are new to sanding and you're just now watching this video, let's go over the tools that you're going to need for sanding a boat properly. So right here we have the MaxShine M8S V2. This is a solid machine that we pretty much use for sanding, waxing, and very light polishing if we're in a case where we have to use it with one-handed. This is an all-around really good machine that you can polish, you can wax, and you can sand, but we use it mainly for our sanding. Here we have our sanding disc, and we also have an interface pad. This is a soft, squishy cushion that you're gonna put on the backing plate of your polisher, and then you're gonna put your sanding disc onto here. So this is going to give you a nice cushion so that your sandpaper is not crazy aggressive on the surface. A lot of people skip out the interface pad and they really do a lot of damage to boats because it'll really make that sanding paper very, very aggressive on gel coat. All right, so let's go over the types of sandpaper that I've used in the past, and let's go over the sandpaper that I'm currently using because I enjoy it and it's saving me some money as a company. So in the past, I've only used Mirka Abralons and Mirka Abranet. Now, Mirka Abralon is still a great foam pad for finishing. This is a really good foam pad that I'll still use if we're sanding a black boat or a dark colored boat. We can still use these to really give us a nice finish. But the only issue with these is that they're about $4 to $5 a piece for these, and they do not last very long at all. I have used Mirka Abranet in the past. Again, those do work well, but I have to order them online and they are also very expensive. And for some reason, I don't know if it's just me or maybe the quality, but I have just found that over the years, they just don't hold up the way they used to in the past. So what I have switched to are these Sunmite finishing film discs. Now I can buy these locally from APS. It's a local paint shop here in town, and I can get them relatively cheap for this entire box. It's 50 pieces, and I think it only cost me about $40 for this entire box. The real reason why I switched to these is one, the cost, because it keeps my costs down as a company, and two, these things just hold up really good, and they give us a very, very smooth finish that we can easily buff out with the heavy cut compound. So a lot of you guys have been asking me, Drake, what sandpaper are you using? This is the sandpaper that we're using. It's the Sunmite finishing film discs from Sunmite. Anytime it comes to removing oxidation or removing gel coat, I always err on the side of removing less gel coat as possible. The more gel coat that you sand off or remove off of a boat, the more harm you're actually doing to the boat in long term. But sometimes when boats are super oxidized and super faded, you really do need to do a good sanding to be able to remove all that dead gel coat so that you can bring it and buff it back to life. So it is necessary. If you can sand a boat with 1000 grit, do it. Don't go down the 600 or 400 to sand it. Always start off at the highest possible sandpaper as you possibly can so that you remove the least amount of material off the boat as possible. Guys, if you got any value out of today's video, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification so that every time we make a video, it will pop up. And like always, all of the products that we talked about in today's video are in the links down below in the description section. If you click those links and purchase those products, we appreciate you guys for that. That's it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll see you guys on our next detail. Let's go.